girl says it's gonna storm. Power lines likely to come down. Take a nap with me. Let the world go round. I wish I knew who I am, but these words belong to a different song. When the downpour comes, I'll keep my raincoat on. I don't want to drown.
There's a particular kind of silence that isn't quiet at all. It's loud. It's deafening. It's the silence of someone who was talking to you yesterday and today pretty much pretends you don't exist. No fight, no explanation, no, hey, I need some space. Just nothing. A void where a relationship used to be. The first time these individuals responsible for my identity theft stopped talking to me, I thought someone had died. I'm serious. I called, I texted, I emailed, I did everything short of sending a flippin' carrier pigeon. And in response, crickets. Absolute crickets. And then, and this is the part that still makes me want to throw furniture, frankly. How shall I put this? A representative for this group showed up. Someone who had essentially appointed herself the designated spokesperson. Someone I would come to refer to as the husk. An empty shell of a person whose sole purpose seemed to be ferrying messages between me and the people who had decided I no longer deserved direct communication. And by the way, the husk was also this self-appointed group leader and the ringleader of my identity thieves, at least the ones that existed in New York. Welcome to Everyone Wants to Be Me, Identity Theft Blows. Today, silent treatments, pandemics, and the most stressful Thanksgiving since the Pilgrims ran out of cranberry sauce. Last time on Everyone Wants to Be Me, it was about Paris, witnessing an assault, a data breach tied to the day my mother died, and the realization that getting paid back for a trip you were asked to arrange and paid for is apparently optional when someone is systematically dismantling your life. Super fun stuff. So today we're entering the pandemic era. I'm going to look at that as 2020 to 2021. It's essentially the year the world stopped and my identity theft shifted into a higher gear. Because here's what a global lockdown provides you when you're trying to steal someone's identity. It provides you the perfect cover story for isolation. Can't see your friends? COVID. Can't verify things in person? COVID. Can't figure out why nobody's returning your calls? Must be COVID stress. Everyone's struggling. Except not everyone was struggling in the same way. Some people were using the lockdown to do things they couldn't have gotten away with when the world was watching. Let me tell you about the first time these people stopped talking to me. It was actually before the pandemic, 2019. It was the first instance of what would become a recurring pattern. One day, everything was normal, or what passed for normal in my increasingly bizarre social landscape. The next day, silence. Complete, total, inexplicable silence. I want you to imagine this. You have people in your life, supposed friends, people you trust, people you've shared meals with and holidays and secrets with. And overnight, poof, they vanish. Not physically, they're still alive. They're still posting on social media about all the fun things that they're doing with one another, and you are clearly excluded from. They're still existing. They're just not existing in your direction. Now, in my world, the healthy response to this is probably to shrug, say their loss, and move on. Well, I wish that had been my world. But here's the thing. When you're already in a push-pull dynamic, when you've already been conditioned to feel responsible for other people's moods, you don't shrug it off. You spiral. What did I do? What did I say? How do I fix this? I need to fix this. And that spiral, that's the point. They want you spinning. Because while you're spending all your emotional energy trying to figure out why your supposed friends won't talk to you, and by the way, simultaneously teaching for 2.5 hours, 1 to 2 nights a week, wearing a mask the entire time, you're not looking at your credit report. You're not noticing the weird charges on your bank statement. You're not paying attention to the fact that your mail looks a little thin lately. Enter the husk. The same individual who was, my new best friend, but not really. I call this person the husk because she had no discernible personality of her own. She had co-opted other people's stories and presented them as her own, as things that had actually happened to her. And she would do this in front of the person whose story it actually was. She was a vessel, a go-between, a message courier wrapped in a human suit. And their job, or her job, and she knew this, was to broker conversations between me and the people who had gone silent. Oh, they're just going through a hard time. They didn't mean anything by it. Why don't you try reaching out again? And in this case, these people, including the husk, had stopped talking to me for 3 solid months with no explanation, with no response to the text messages I sent. Could we take a walk and have a clear the air conversation? Could we sit down and talk this through? She would say things to me, the husk would say things to me like, well, maybe if you just apologized. Apologized? For what? For existing? For noticing that people were treating me like a pariah? For having the audacity to want direct communication with people who claimed to be my friends? The husk served 2 purposes. Well, 3. One was identity thief, but the others were because I thought she was helping. I thought she was a neutral individual in this, and a friend trying to help repair broken friendships or perceived broken friendships. She wasn't neutral. She was essentially a surveillance tool in stilettos. Then 2020 hit. I don't need to tell you what the pandemic was like. You were there. We all were. But I need to tell you what the pandemic was like for someone whose identity was being stolen, because it was different. For most people, lockdown meant isolation from people they wanted to see. For me, lockdown meant isolation had a socially acceptable excuse. Nobody thought it was weird that I wasn't seeing people. Nobody questioned why I was out of the loop. The world had essentially provided a built-in justification for the isolation that had already been engineered around me. And the people involved in my identity theft, they thrived. They had less oversight, less chance of being caught, more time to consolidate whatever they were doing with my data, my finances, my digital footprint. Now, Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving 2020. Or whenever the vaccination chaos was. Honestly, the pandemic years have merged into one long, bleary fever dream. But let me tell you about the vaccination mishigas. Mishigas, for those of you who don't speak Yiddish, means craziness. Absolute, unhinged craziness. And that's exactly what happened around the COVID vaccinations within my circle. What should have been a straightforward public health decision became a weapon, a tool for inclusion and exclusion, and demands that I deliver messages to people to make sure that everybody was vaccinated if we were all going to get together for Thanksgiving, which wasn't my responsibility. I wasn't the host. I was just, trying to keep people safe. Anyway, who got vaccinated, who didn't, who was responsible enough, who was putting others at risk, all of it became leverage in the ongoing campaign to control and to isolate me. I'm not going to bore you with every detail because honestly, I don't actively think about it for my own mental health. But the summary is this. A medical decision was weaponized to further the narrative that I was irresponsible or too responsible or too cautious or that I was difficult or not to be trusted. At Thanksgiving, the holiday literally designed around togetherness. You can't make this stuff up. And while all this family friend drama was swirling around the turkey and the vaccination cards, my identity was being dismantled in the background like a house of cards in a wind tunnel. But I didn't know that yet. Not officially. That revelation was still years away. Now let's talk about isolation as a tool of identity theft and abuse in general, because let's be honest, what I'm describing is abuse. It's just abuse with a financial motive. Classic isolation tactics include, number one, the silent treatment. This isn't just someone being passive aggressive. In a systematic scheme, silence serves a purpose. It keeps the victim destabilized and emotionally preoccupied, which means they're distracted from monitoring their financial and their digital security. Number two, triangulation. Using a friend group self-appointed leader like the Husk to control information flow. When you can't communicate with someone directly, you can't verify facts. You can't compare notes. You can only receive the filtered version that go-between provides. And that filter, it serves the people doing the filtering. Number three, exploiting external crises. The pandemic was, for identity thieves everywhere, a gift. Increased digital activity. Everybody was online buying things. You couldn't go into stores. A lot of places closed. You couldn't sit down and have dinner in a restaurant. There were overwhelmed government agencies. There was, social isolation was the norm. If you were already in a vulnerable position, COVID made everything worse. All right, homework time. Told ya. Deal with it. Number one, if someone has gone silent on you and an individual self-appointed leader or a third party is managing the relationship, ask yourself, whose interest does this arrangement serve? If the answer isn't mine, that's a problem. Number two, during times of crisis, pandemic, natural disaster, political upheaval, be extra vigilant about your financial security. Thieves know that you're distracted, so don't be. Number three, check in directly with people you trust. Don't rely on intermediaries. And if those people are not responding to you because they're waiting for their self appointed leader to talk to you on their behalves, make sure that you're checking in with people that you genuinely trust. Don't rely on those intermediaries. If a friend won't talk to you directly, that's information in itself. Painful information, but still information. And number four, review your accounts right now. Every credit card, every bank account, every subscription, every retirement account. Look for anything you don't recognize, because crisis periods are prime time for fraud because people are too overwhelmed to check. Remember when everyone started baking during the pandemic? Sourdough starters, banana bread. People who had never turned on their ovens were suddenly acting like they'd been personally mentored by Julia Child. Well, I was a little bit ahead of that curve, thank you very much. Making roast chicken and trying out new things to make in my meal repertoire because my pandemic lifeline, not because it was trendy, but because when the whole world feels like it's spinning out of control, doing things like measuring exactly 3/4 of a cup of sugar and learning how to make a really good roast chicken is sometimes the most grounding thing that you can do. There's actually a scientific basis for this, by the way. Baking engages your senses, as does doing things like making a roast chicken. It involves smell, it involves touch, taste, sight. And baking specifically follows a very predictable process. You put in ingredients, you follow steps, and you get a result. And in a world where nothing made sense and people I loved were ghosting me while they simultaneously stole my identity, that predictability was medicine. So today's recipe is one that got me through kind of the longest, loneliest nights of lockdown. I refer to it as lockdown comfort muffins. Just muffins in general are really easy to make, and the recipe actually is will be posted in this episode's description on YouTube, and you can also find it on my Substack account, which is called Everyone Wants to Be Me. But today's recipe is one that got me through those long, lonely nights, those comfort muffins. And make them with any kind of fruit that you want, fruit that's in season. Blueberries are great, bananas are easy to make, or a combination of bananas and blueberries, or whatever fruit that you really like. Make a batch. Eat one warm from the oven. Feel your shoulders drop from your ears, and remember that you are not spinning. You are standing still, and it's the world that's spinning around you. And that's not your fault. All right, so to recap, the silent treatment is a weapon, not a personality quirk. Third-party go-betweens or self-designated mediators, husks, exist to control information flow. They don't exist to help you. The pandemic provided perfect cover for identity theft operations, and doing things like weaponizing health decisions with the express purpose of further isolating someone in a special kind of cruel way. So your action items after listening: number 1, make sure that you review every financial account you have, every single one, and look for any anomalies. 2, communicate directly. Refuse triangulation. If someone won't speak to you directly, document it, journal about it, and protect yourself. And just take a close look at that so-called friendship. And if someone can't be honest or direct or have those sometimes really awkward conversations when you've got tension or you've got conflict, then that's not necessarily someone that you are able to trust. That might be a good acquaintance. That might be a social friend, but they're not your close friends. They're not the people that you should trust with your most private information. Number 3, don't let crisis distract you from your own security. Set a calendar reminder to check your credit and your bank accounts and your credit card accounts and any financial account that you have. Check those monthly. And in our next episode, which I've titled He Taxes Me, and I mean that literally, we're going to talk about a $13,000 tax bill that appeared out of nowhere. Tax weirdness dating back to 2008 and the ongoing campaign to ice me out, bring me along, and ditch me again. Plus a comment about a rock star that will make you want to scream on my behalf. Share this podcast with someone who survived the pandemic and still isn't sure what happened to their friendships. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Everyone Wants to Be Me, Identity Theft Blows. Review, tell your therapist if you have one, or your scarapist as I like to call them, about this podcast. Check the show notes for any resources on recognizing isolation tactics, and check for those muffin recipes. Again, also the Substack is available with the full recipes listed. Links to the recipes are also on the YouTube channel, the podcast YouTube channel. Everyone Wants to Be Me, Identity Theft Blows. I'm your host, Grace Mangum, and everyone wants to be me, and they even wanted to be me during a global pandemic, which really says something about their judgment. I'll see you next episode.